With the release of Hellraiser Judgment, a lot of people's comments and concerns were, where is Doug Bradley? Where is Pinhead? Obviously we got Paul T. Taylor, and I actually interviewed the man himself as well. But as a result of that, a lot of people have not seen Hellraiser Judgment, because obviously Doug Bradley created arguably this iconic character which we all know and love. So what you're about to listen to is an excerpt from an interview I did with the writer, director, and also long-time former friend of Doug Bradley, Gary J Tunnicliffe. I would encourage you to listen to the entire interview because it's important to listen to it all, because there are some comments towards the end of this interview which are not nearly as negative and also show that Gary does want to actually extend an olive branch over to Doug. And as well, off the back of that, it's important to note that there are two sides to every story. This is just Gary's. I'm not saying one side is being more honest than the other or anything along those lines, but it is just, as always, important to note that there are two sides to every story. So I hope you enjoy this interview. A lot of people have an issue with the fact that Paul Taylor is Pinhead now for Judgment. Why? Why not Doug Bradley? Why is Doug Bradley not in it?
I get it. Look, I mean, and I admire people who are kind of like, I mean, I don't understand it personally. I mean, I didn't ban myself from seeing Silence of the Lambs because Brian Cox wasn't playing Hannibal Lecter, and Brian Cox was a great Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter, but I didn't go, no Brian Cox, no Hellraiser, no Silence of the Lambs, you know what I mean? I mean, I think you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing yourself an actor a disservice. Secondly, to anyone who's critiqued Paul Taylor or goes out of their way to be mean to him, he's just a fucking actor who got given a job, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So don't be angry at him. Don't you want to go have a go at someone, don't pick on the monkey, pick on the organ grinder. You know, I hired. Thirdly, the reason Paul Taylor's playing the part is because Doug Bradley wouldn't sign a non-disclosure agreement to read the script. And secondly, Doug Bradley has said so much shit about Dimension over the years that he got up to the higher ups there. There are online videos where Doug calls people at Dimension idiots and fools. So when Doug declined to sign the NDA, much to my annoyance, I mean, I wanted Doug in it. I love Doug. He was a dear friend of mine, and he's not anymore, which is a real nasty situation that's come out of this. But as soon as I got the film and as soon as we'd finished the script, I was really excited to call him. We had more money than the insulting amount they were going to give him on Revelations, which is why he didn't do Revelations. We had a decent amount of money, and I called him, and he was like, "Why are you helping those assholes make another film?" Which I was like, "Well, it's my film, Doug," and that didn't seem to change his opinion at all. I mean, I was hoping, I was really expecting, to be quite honest, that he'd be, "Hey Gary, it's you doing it? Oh my God! Oh, then sign me up, buddy." You know what I mean? Like, whatever you need, I'm there. And he wasn't. He was very down on it, very kind of like just down on it. And I pitched the idea of the script, and he was like, "Yeah, well, sounds all right, But I was like, "We only need you for a couple of days." And he was like, "Oh, well, if it's only a couple of days, then it sounds like another horrible Hellraiser film." I was like, "Well, I can't, Doug likes Hellraiser 3 because, it's got a lot of Doug in it, And I mean, I didn't want to do a Hellraiser film with tons and tons of Pinhead in it. So he wasn't ingratiated by that. So then he was very kind of like, "Oh, well, just send it to me and I'll read it." And he was really negative. And I turned around to the producers and said, he wasn't, they were like, "How was that?" I mean, it was literally like, they were like, "Did it go, is he excited? Is he cold?" And I was like, "No, he doesn't sound very excited at all. He sounds quite the opposite of excited, actually." And my bubble is well and truly popped, I was like, I was really excited to get on the phone with Doug, and now I feel really miserable. And I said, and they said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, we should send him a script." And I said, I'm really terrified that if he doesn't like it, he's going to turn around and say, before the film comes out, he's going to go, "Oh, well, I read the script and it's shit." You know what I mean? Like, if he says he's not going to do it, he's going to turn around and poo-poo the whole thing, and like he did on Revelations. And one of the producers said, "Oh, well, we'll get him to sign a non-disclosure agreement." And I was like, "Okay." So I said to Doug, "We're going to send you the script and we'll send you an NDA." And it wasn't a special NDA. It was just one that the producer had just done a film and they had an NDA in their script, so in his computer. Yeah. So he changed the name of the film, and it was exactly what everyone on that previous film had signed. And we sent it. And Doug said to me, I'm not, how dare you, I'm not going to sign an NDA, and I'm not going to sign an NDA just to read a fucking script, a damn script, he said. And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And there was kind of like a stalling point. I was like, "Well, what do I do now?" And he just said, "I'm not going to read it." So I guess I turned around at that point. We were getting, it was like we needed to find someone. I was like, well, I turned around to the producers and said, I guess we're looking for somebody else now. Like, yeah, they said, honestly, we're not that bothered anyway. He said he hasn't said very nice things about us. It's kind of like, we're going to give him some money, but he's been pretty mean about us. And I said, well, I guess we're looking for the best actor we can find, I said, I want everybody on this film to be really enthusiastic and to be into it and to be wanting to do a good job and to turn up and be laughing and joking and ready to buckle down. And I didn't want Doug to be sitting up the corner saying, well, when we did Hellraiser 4, I had twice as much money as this, or whatever, you know what I mean, or 3 times, or this is very low budget, isn't it? I wanted a positive, energy.
It makes a massive difference, doesn't it? You can't have people, down on one another in, when you're all trying to come together in a positive way to make something which is ultimately positive. You can't have a negative aspect of the.
No,
the production.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Doug probably would have done that. I'm sure he would have turned up and been like he always has, which is a thorough professional, and he would have rewritten the dialogue like he always does on Hellraiser films. He tends to rewrite the Pinhead dialogue or change it a little bit to make it more for him. And I'm sure he would have embraced it, and I'm sure he'd have had a lot of fun with it. I don't know how he would have thought about me being the auditor. He might have had a problem with that, I guess, because he tends to get a bit. I don't know. But yeah, I was very, very upset, and I also knew there would be horrendous backlash to it. I knew that, wow, this is not going to help things at all. So I purposely kept the email where he'd written to me and said what he said about not reading the script. And then we didn't tell anybody at the film. We kept it all under quiet. The film was being made under the guise of being called Judgment. And Doug, bless his heart, hadn't said to anyone, oh, I hear they're making a Hellraiser. He didn't go out publicly with it. He kept it quiet. And then we were shooting, and I came off set one night, and I was in the car, and the producer said, I was about to turn my phone on, because I don't allow cell phones on set. And I don't use mine at all during the time when we're on set. And I turned just before I turned my phone on, the producer said, just warning you before you turn your phone on, Heather Langenkamp released that she was in Hellraiser today. She kind of told someone that she was in Hellraiser. Oh, no. And I was like, ooh, and he's like, yeah. He's like, so the internet's kind of blown up with it. And I turned my phone on, and my phone was just like messages and oh my God, and all this kind of stuff. And I guess rightly so, as soon as the information had come out, someone had gone to Doug Bradley and said, hey, what's your opinion on this? And Doug had clearly got his ducks in a row and had got his whole statement of what he was going to say. And he wrote this statement saying, I was contacted, I was asked to sign an NDA, and I didn't want to sign it. I wasn't going to sign it. And someone came to me and said, Doug said this, Doug said that. And I said, no, here's what Doug said. I said, do you want to know what Doug said? I said, I will cut and paste for you the phrase lifted from my email. I didn't print the whole thing or give them the whole thing, and it was a big email, pretty verbose. But all I did was cut and paste the line, I'm not going to sign an NDA and make myself liable for $1 million, which I don't have, brackets, just to read a damn script. Because I found that very offensive, because I was like, well, it's my damn script, Doug. So I printed that, and then all hell broke loose. I mean, I got text off Doug Bradley, and Doug was like, how dare you release our personal correspondence? You have soured our friendship forever. And I was like, good, God, your panties are in a bunch here, aren't they? And I think it was because it showed him in a bad light to the public. It put him in a bad light. Not a bad light, but I mean, it exposed the truth, and he didn't like it. And we haven't spoken since, and it's been gloves off ever since as well. Like, he said some pretty downright shitty things in the press, and I've tried to maintain and keep it friendly. I even reached out to him about 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, hey, should we clear this up before I go and start doing interviews and stuff? Because I'd love to be able to be doing interviews and saying, everybody, me and Doug are great friends, and, he said, she said, and blood under the bridge, and it's all been pushed away, and Doug's doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing, and God bless the world, and we're all happy. And I wrote to Doug and said, look, me and my father never spoke for 4 years over shit way worse than what you and I have exchanged. Can't we figure this out? Yeah. And I never heard anything back, so he either didn't get the email, which I know he did, but he obviously doesn't want to, and I suspect there are people within Doug's camp who are keeping the vitriol fire burning and saying, oh, Gary's doing this and Gary's doing that, and look what Gary said about you, and, oh, well, get over it, right? So, I mean, Paul came in, we hired Paul, I saw lots and lots of actors, and when I saw Paul's tape, he was reading for the assessor because we didn't want people to know it was Pinhead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought physically he kind of looked a little bit like a young Peter Cushing, and I just thought he was good and he had a good English accent. And I kind of thought straight away, there's our guy, and we had him read for Pinhead, and he came in like a big, a great big excited fan puppy, you know, excited to do the job, and if he ever did anything wrong, he'd be like, I'm so sorry, please forgive me for doing that, you know. I'd be like, it's okay, you know. And he was just excited to be the character, and I think he did a great job. I really do. I mean, you know, Doug Bradley's, you know, Doug owns that character, you know. He's Pinhead, and he always will be. And those are big boots to fill, and you know, Doug fucking nailed it physically, and created a brilliant, beautiful character, and you know, hats off to him for that, you know. And he's made a lifetime out of you know, signing 8x10s over it, you know what I mean? And you know, kudos to him for that. You know, it's all very good. You know, I think I'd like to have seen Doug go into different roles. I mean, and Doug Bradley can sit there and bemoan and be angry, but I actually got Doug roles in other films because I recommended him. You know, like he was in Prophecy because I recommended him to the producers of the Prophecy, saying, you know, Doug's a great actor. We should get him to do something other than Pinhead, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's a tragedy that Doug hasn't played other characters and being able to, you know, we haven't seen more of Doug in other roles, but hey, that's the way it goes. But I would love to have Doug to have been in it. Loved him to have been in it. I am sorry that we're not friends anymore. It upsets me, and I think it bodes miserably for the future because I'm sure our paths are going to cross, and I'm sure it's not going to be pleasant. But I'm ecstatic that Paul Taylor's in the role, and I'm so happy that those of you in the public have chosen to embrace him and to give the guy a chance. And thank you for that, because like I say, at the end of the day, Paul's just an actor who got a role and knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned.